Alice Linahan is the founder of Voices in Power. Absolutely legit Tea Party grassroots, straight from Texas. So we're pleased to have this, a very diverse panel here.
Well, I am just a opinionated Texas mom who has been looking at the ground level from a grassroots Tea Party level of what's going on, what moms and dads are saying, what's going on in education. You know, a lot of these issues that we're talking about, that we're trying to figure out why the left owns the narrative on gun rights, immigration, environmentalism, if you actually look at the curriculum of what's being taught to our children in K through 12, they're working against us during the week when our kids are at school. And so as a mom who's been involved in the grassroots, who's been involved in empowering people at the local level to be the media to expose what's going on in their own community, we're asking moms and dads to go into their schools and say, can I see? Can I see the curriculum? Can I see the management system that you're using to capture data on my child, on their assessments? And looking at these issues at a very local level. I don't believe we're going to elect someone to save us. I think we're going to save ourselves. And the only way to save ourselves is to get educated on the issues and talk about them truthfully and honestly. You know, a lot of these issues for everyday moms and dads who aren't political nuts like us, they can keep their head in the sand, you know, on immigration, on transportation, on the budget, because it's not affecting them personally yet. Education is different. When you're dealing with your child who was a straight A student and now through the changes in education are coming home and, you know, they're failing or they're disillusioned or they're coming home talking about things that you're completely opposed to, you can't keep your head in the sand. And so I think that this issue of what's going on in education, the whole Common Core philosophy of education, it's just not a set of standards, it's a whole philosophy of education we need to take serious and look at. And obviously it's not a left against right issue, because you have people like Mike Huckabee and Bill Bennett who are for Common Core. You have the left who's for Common Core. So I don't think it's a Republican Democrat thing, it's a American thing.
So Alice, I mean, the new media really drives a lot of what you do, right?
Everything that I do is based on new media. And it's interesting to tap into that. Politics is driven, our PR, money is spent on PR and marketing for a politician. If you look at the phenomenon of Ted Cruz, I was one of those people 4 or 5 years ago that was following him around with my iPhone when he was at a Republican women's luncheon or wherever he was. I was following him, and I was one of those, one of his blogger brigade. He did not announce that he was running for senator to the media. He had a blogger's call and he announced it to all of us because he knew, one, we already had content on him, we had photos, we had videos, we could turn around content quickly that was positive and pro Ted Cruz. He took time to build that network, and it was on very little money. I mean, I did it because I wanted him to get elected. I believed in what he was saying. And so what's interesting is, as someone who was vehemently working against Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, because that was his opponent, I am now working very closely with Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst because he was humbled. He got his clock cleaned by Ted Cruz. He also got his clock cleaned by Wendy Davis with HB2 as they were passing that. And he saw firsthand how organized and how powerful the left is at a grassroots level. Ted Cruz showed how when you're organized and as a grassroots level, you can be powerful and overcome the money issue. So it's interesting, and Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, when you look at this education issue, I went and met with Governor Perry's education policy people to see where they were at, to see if they got it. They didn't. They were completely on board with the whole Common Core philosophy of education. I was completely disillusioned by seeing the people around Governor Perry. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, on the other side, his people advising him, they get it, and their door is open, and we have access to them. And we were able, we had a local group, moms and dads, who filed suit against their school district to keep this C-scope, this curriculum, out of their schools. We were able to call the Lieutenant Governor and say, can we have a press conference at the Capitol to announce that these parents got a temporary restraining order? He was open to doing that because he knows the network that's behind this grassroots movement fighting against education. But what's funny is the media showed up, and I said, listen, guys, people will say that this is political because Lieutenant Governor's running again. It is political, but not for him. The media would have never showed up if we just, a group of moms and dads who were announcing that we had a temporary restraining order, they would have never showed up. So it is political. We were using him to get the media. And I told him, I said, I could care less about your political career. I want you to fight this issue like a pissed off dad who sees children in Texas being harmed. And oh, by the way, if you fight like that, you very well might get reelected, because that's what people want to see. People are hungry for the truth, and they're tired of backdoor deals happening, in whether it's in the Capitol in Austin or the Capitol in Washington. People just want elected officials who do the right thing because it's about the next generation, frankly. And I think that when we see politicians fight like that, you're going to bring in people from different demographics. As women, we are nurturers and we are empathetic. But the other side of that is when women and moms know the truth, and when we give information and those analytics. I was talking about this earlier. Dr. Peg Lessig talks about why are there all these women out fighting against education and what's going on in the education system. And she said, a man will stand in the line of fire for his child. He will die for his child. A mother will kill. And so armed with truth, there is nothing that will stop. Me as a mother, I get up every single day and fight the good fight because of my children. They are the next generation. And I will not die without trying to get them truth. And they know it. They're embarrassed by me a lot. But now they've kind of come full circle where my daughter, who has, she doesn't have the mom at home who's, doing crafts with her. She's got this crazy political activist mom who's not home. And she said, Mom, I just want you to know I appreciate what you're doing because I know it's for the future. So there's something powerful in channeling that anger and truth at the same time.
What is your sense? I mean, where is the body politic right now? Like, what is the feeling in the heart of the country?
Not with the Beltway. And it's interesting because when you look, if you look at the marketing from the left, how many of you saw the video Mr. Kid President? Have any of y'all seen you've seen Mr. Kid President? He's this precious little black kid that all over Facebook, all over YouTube, I think it's up to 28 million hits. And it's this kid, he's Mr. Kid President. And he, you know, is playing the role. But it's not political at all. He doesn't talk, all he talks about is go be great. Just be awesome. You know, and that's all we need to do. And who tapped into the greatness of this kid? Was it Romney or was it Obama? Well, it was Obama. He invited him to the White House. They did another YouTube video, and he's walking around showing him Lincoln, showing him Martin Luther King. And this kid is Mr. Kid President. He's now the spokesman to children in America. He's the kid that invites them all to the White House for the Easter egg hunt. How many conservative Republicans have even seen that video or even know about that video? And I love that video. I push it out because it makes me feel good. I want to be great. And he tells you old people, y'all are boring. So that narrative online that our kids are seeing, that the next generation are seeing, they just want to feel good. They're scared to death. They feel what's going on, and they want to go to a safe place. And it's interesting because when you talk about the issue of education, one of the things, you know, you would think that as a conservative Republican, I would be all for school choice. I mean, that's the narrative that the left has. That's the narrative that the left has. Those right-wing Republicans, they're for school choice. They're against public schools. They're against, you know, and they've created that divide. Well, when I go in and talk to groups about education, let's define school choice. Because for me as a mom, school choice means I look in my little community to see what is available for my children and what's the best thing. It might be public school, it might be private school, but here's the deal. When you look at this federal takeover of our education system right now, and as we're pushing for school choice, if we collapse, if we allow them to collapse our public school system, we have just gone to a charter school, vouchers, private school, where they are all run by appointed boards. Those appointed boards are beholden to who's giving the grant money. We have just taken away our fundamental right, the beauty of the local public school system, for elected officials. An elected school board. If I don't like what's going on in Argyle, Texas, I go up to my school board meeting and I raise holy heck. They know who I am. And that's the power of a mom and dad. So we have to, and so when I go in and I'm talking to education people, they think I'm going to come in and just, you know, talk about how horrible they are, that they're a bunch of socialists and communists. And I say, no, let's work together, because do we really see what's happening? And let's talk about the issues and come together at the local level. Everything can't be fixed in the Beltway. Everything can't be fixed in our state capitals. It has to be taken down to the local level. And there's a video of Bill Ayers, and he's talking to a group of community organizers. And he said, listen, don't try to seek the seats of power that you don't have access to, the president, senators, congressmen. Go to the seats of power that you have direct access to, city council, mayors, and school boards. So until conservatives understand that we've got to get down to the ground level and take our country back one school board, one mayor, one city council at a time, and not depend on the Beltway to fix it for us, it's going to be us, not elected officials. I'm one of those people, I'm a connected authority on social media. I post news and information all day long on Facebook and Twitter, but I get my news and information from sources that I have over time become, I know that are trustworthy. So, but then you've got the engaged minority. Those are the people, the grassroots people that show up at Tea Party meetings. They're usually 65 and older, and they are there because they know the truth, they know what's going on, but they don't know what to do except go to meetings and talk to other people in an echo chamber that agree with them. And then you have this passive majority of people that's still watching Dancing with the Stars and has no clue of what's going on. And so part of what we're doing with Voices in Power is training those engaged minority folks to be the connected authority. The more people that we have out there using Facebook and that are posting news and information, that's how we will disseminate our message. I tell people, I can write a blog post, but your friends and neighbors don't know and love me, they know and love you. And so I think in building an army, if you will, or a network of people who are taking out our message, we have to go out there and talk to people. And you know, it's interesting. I would love, we have these communication teams all across the state of Texas who've taken on different issues. Our three main issues are education, national security, and immigration. We have a conference call every Wednesday night where we have, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100 people on our call, and to be able to tap into a resource like yours and have you on our call, that's the kind of networks that are being built now. And it's interesting because those people, those 65 and older who show up at Tea Party meetings 5 years ago would have never been on Facebook and Twitter. And now they're on Facebook and Twitter, and they're having an impact on their children and their grandchildren. When they see their grandchild posting something on Facebook, they'll get into a debate with them. We have a program called Generation Mentor, and we go in, and I have these young college kids go in and teach an older group how to just post on Facebook. And this young girl got up to the group and she said, listen, thank you so much for being here. She said, when I post information, conservative information, I get slammed by the left. And she goes, now that I know that you're friends with me on Facebook, I know you've got my back. And so I think creating those relationships between generations and then with our messaging is how we'll reach that passive majority.
Interesting. Alice, you know, you're kind of classic Texas Tea Party, and would it be fair to say that experience colored or shifted or maybe radicalized is the wrong word, your perspective on some things?
Definitely. And I think a coalition was built actually between conservatives and libertarians in Tampa. I was telling Nick, I was sitting at Hope and Change sitting next to Pat Caddell when the floor vote was happening. And my phone was going nuts, and I looked at Pat and I said, I am totally sick to my stomach. I said, right now I'm watching this documentary, Hope and Change, of how these Democrats were completely snowed. And right at this very moment, Republicans all across this country are being completely snowed because they have no idea that their states' rights are being taken away. And to me, as a conservative Republican Texas mom, it opened my eyes to reality. And that this battle, you know, Pat Caddell says it brilliantly. It's not a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. It's an American thing. And when we start fighting for freedom as Americans for the next generation, that's when we'll get back on course. And I think that on the Hill and in the Capitol in Austin, you can tell people like Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, who went from that establishment type, you know, label to understanding what the big picture is and fighting like a pissed off dad. And so I think when people on the Hill realize that this is bigger than them, it's bigger than their job, it's bigger than the thing that they can, the piece of legislation that they can put forth that's going to save us, it's bigger than them, that's when it gets back to conservatism. Well, and just to kind of tap into what you were saying, as a, socially conservative Texas mom, that's between my family and I and our local community. When you have these big initiatives, of the gay rights movement, and they're making it a social issue, and we're trying to figure out how to, not be seen as on the wrong side. I think that goes down to a family issue, and when you take it down local, and you have moms and dads and grandparents talking about these issues in the family, I think it's going to take care of that issue, instead of letting the left drive the narrative that all the right cares about are these social issues. So take a hold of the narrative. I think that these kind of panel discussions are huge, but I also think it would be great to take it from here into small communities and bring in people like Lori from the Hill, so that they can put a name, a face with these people. Because I think that's what, I'm behind my computer in Texas. I stay away from here. And so I think when you bring it into reality that these are people that are trying to make a difference and create those relationships, there's huge opportunity. We just have to take it.